You're good, Mike.
Good morning, Coalition of Concerned Republicans. It's June the 18th, 2026, and the politics in the state of Florida continues. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm proud to be here with my good friend and colleague, Chuck Benoit, and we've got a really packed show today. The first thing we want to do today is just address something that our amazing friend and colleague June Lang brought to our attention today. The local Republican Executive Committee here in Lake County is considering a Rule 8 is the technical terminology for endorsing a candidate when there's more than one Republican in a race. So that's something we're going to talk about, that the Lake County Republican Executive Committee is considering invoking Rule 8 of the Republican Party of Florida's Rules of Procedure. And then I just really want to take everybody out onto this little island. And I want you to know, for example, that right now the Lake County Republican Executive Committee has also empowered a policy committee to come up with legislative priorities for the 2027 legislative session. And I just want to challenge our audience to think through all of the times that we were so discouraged. And this goes back for years and years. Remember when we couldn't win an election, right? When Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan were running, when John McCain and Sarah Palin were running, and we were losing, and we couldn't figure out how we were going to get our country back and all that. And all of a sudden, here came Donald Trump and expanded the political tent for the Republican Party. And anybody who wants to take credit for that other than Donald Trump is wrong. Donald Trump expanded the political tent for the Republican Party and gave us the ability to win elections. Donald Trump and no one else did that. But my point to you is this. Here's our little takeaway. Chuck and I put a title on each one of these episodes. And today's title is Constant Steady Pressure, Never Give Up. That is the theme of today's episode. I want you to really fully embrace that. And then for those of us who actually walk into the lion's den and with a dissenting opinion against what the establishment political class is doing and not doing, we need to learn to embrace the feeling that you get when you walk into a room where you are the minority voice, and we need to own that feeling and be proud of it, not ashamed of it, and certainly not threatened by them. That's a big deal. So before I bring Chuck right in, I just want to make this final point. No one would have ever imagined that the Lake County Republican Executive Committee or any other REC in the state of Florida could pass a platform or legislative priorities, because the Republican Party of Florida has pushed back against that vehemently ever since it was created, I would suggest. But under Anthony Sabatini's leadership, we did that. We passed a platform, and we passed on several years while Anthony was chairman. We passed legislative priorities. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Even in the face of the political class's opposition, the Lake County Republican Executive Committee is doing it again. So with that, I'll bring Chuck into the conversation. Chuck, what do you think about what I just said?
Pretty exciting, Mike. As you said, it's just a matter of staying on task and being willing to show up, even though you might be in the minority. And so I think what you've done is highlighted some very, very interesting things, and we're very excited about it.
Okay, well, talk to us about this Rule 8 thing that's going on at the Republican Executive Committee here in Lake County, Chuck.
Yeah, well, typically the REC or those who've kind of opposed this kind of thing have been very, very adamant about not doing this. But it just so happens that today, or this particular session, there's a little bit of angst because I guess Allison Strange, who's been a pretty consistent city council seat holder, has been opposed by Michael Gonzalez, who is, they're both now registered Republicans. And for whatever reasons, those who've kind of opposed this kind of thing have a bit of an ire going on about it. And so there's going to be something addressed there. Now, I don't believe that I can tell you which one we're going to try to endorse, because we haven't done that yet. And we're not supposed to endorse one Republican over another without doing this Rule 8. But that's, I think, the race that is going to be discussed at the upcoming REC monthly meeting.
Well, I can tell you, Chuck, I don't mind sticking my neck out, because I got news for you. The Lake County Republican Executive Committee is not interested in endorsing Michael Gonzalez. I can tell you that right now. So you might as well just go ahead and put it on your calendar and in your notes that the REC is considering endorsing Allison Strange. That's the way it is. For some reason, I liked Mike Gonzalez when he was running. He actually held a city council seat in Claremont for, I think, one term, I think. And, he came to the South Lake Republican Club meetings and stuff like that. I talked to him many times. He seemed like a pretty solid conservative to me. But I also understand that when he was serving in public office, a lot of people felt that he was not as conservative as we would like for him to be. And that happens all the time. People will profess one thing when they're on the campaign trail, or as they're theoretically saying what I would do if I was a city council member. And then when you get into the job, you find out, that there's some other pressures going on there, and you don't perform the way you thought you would, okay? Because whatever influences, cause you to moderate where you're at. So I don't have a problem with Mike Gonzalez myself, but there's a lot of reasons why people would endorse Allison Strange. She's an amazing woman, brilliant person, smart, and she's done a lot for Lake County, even though she gets some, she is the beneficiary of some public-private partnerships and things like that a lot of conservatives might not sign off on. But so that's the story on that from my historical perspective. Thank you, Chuck, for bringing it to the table. And just so you know, the Republican Party of Florida is more adamant against endorsing in statewide races than they are in local races. I would suggest that the Republican Party of Florida actually would encourage us to get Republicans, for example, onto city council seats and school board seats and stuff like that, because theoretically that's building our bench of future leadership. So that's something else we might want to get into the mix.
Yeah.
So today, Chuck, in addition to that, we're going to go off and we're going to get into the work that the Public Policy Committee is doing on behalf of the Lake County Republican Executive Committee. So why don't you lead us into that?
Okay, well, this is, I guess, maybe put it up on the screen here. Would this be something that they worked with, the 26 legislative priorities kind of worked off of something we've already had, Mike? Because it does look pretty full. There's an awful lot here. And
yeah, well, that's the danger, Chuck. And this is something that, keep in mind, what we're showing people here right now is a work in progress.
Okay.
This has not been completed by the committee, and this will be pared down because, again, this legislative priorities has to fit on the front and back of a postcard, Chuck. So obviously, all the language on the screen does not fit on a postcard, even if it was an 8.5 by 11 front and back postcard.
Yeah,
you're not going to get this done. Okay, so this is going to be pared down a little bit. So yes, it's true that the committee started with the platform that we published under Chairman Sabatini's leadership, and then they went over and looked at the legislative priorities over the last couple of years, et cetera, and that's where they started. So that is a problem, actually, Chuck, and I'm on the committee, so I was able to bring it up and say a lot of the stuff here is old news. And we certainly don't want to lobby legislators for public policy that is not current and not vital to the time that we're in right now. So, as we were going through this, I didn't see anything about data centers on this list, but trust me, the Public Policy Committee will address data centers. It should be there to ban data centers in Florida. That's something that we discussed in the committee meeting, and everyone on the committee supported that idea. So trust me, banning data centers in Florida will be on this list, Chuck. And just to say that Commissioner Sabatini is actually bringing to the Lake County Board of County Commissioners this Tuesday either a resolution or an ordinance proposal that would ban data centers in Lake County, which I will support. So that's that, Chuck. So let's keep going.
Okay. Well, on the top of the list is to protect our elections. We've been talking about this for probably, for a long time, but at least the last 8 to 10 years. Is there anything in particular you wanted? We never really highlighted anything in this section, but I guess point being made that our elections are important and we're going to address them in our legislative priorities.
Well, the interesting part about that is none of the candidates running for governor have election. Well, I think James Fishback does, actually. In his platform, he has something about protecting elections because he knows that the state of Florida, particularly Republicans in Florida, and I would suggest Democrats too, and non-party affiliation voters are very concerned about the integrity, legitimacy of our elections. So the reason why it's so important, Chuck, is because we cannot let election integrity slip off of the radar. We've got to stay focused on election integrity. And again, there's a lot more to this story. I guess we'll have to because the president or prime minister or whatever they do in South Korea is actually in the United States right now, soliciting the support of the United States because they're suggesting that the Chinese Communist Party hacked their voting machines and rigged their election. And the prime minister from South Korea believes that working together with the United States, we can expose the international rigging of elections around the world, which helps South Korea get their election process under control and would help us here in the United States get our election process under control. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that progresses because there's a lot going on in global election integrity, and that could help us solve the problem here in the United States, Chuck.
There you go. Well, the next topic on this list is public safety. We have a couple of things highlighted here. Top one is for us here is to build and operate a missile defense system protecting Florida from attack. That would be missile defense and drone defense, I think you suggested earlier. So who brought that up and what's that all about?
Yeah, I brought it up. And I brought it up because it wasn't too long ago that we identified a Russian nuclear submarine patrolling not too far, like within a mile or two of our coastline off of Miami. And then we also know, and I won't tell the story because we don't have the time, but we also know that after the Bay of Pigs situation down in Cuba, that Russia actually had the right to operate military bases in Cuba, which when the Ukraine war broke out, they assigned to China. So the Chinese Communist Party probably still today has the right to build out and improve, modernize military bases in Cuba. Now, I know that the federal government and actually the state of Florida, I was in the legislature with Senator Dennis Baxley one day, when he had to go to a special meeting to talk about defense of the state of Florida because of what was going on with the Chinese Communist Party in Cuba. But I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, as we watch and see what's going on in Iran and Ukraine and places like that, when we were kids, Chuck and I, we used to think that America was invincible because we had oceans, the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, and nobody could get to us. Well, that's not the case anymore. So as you're watching other countries get shelled with missiles and attacked with drone swarms, don't think that can't happen in the state of Florida. So yes, we need a defense system that protects us against missile and drone attacks in Florida, Chuck.
There we go. And the next thing that we have highlighted regarding public safety is Florida shall immediately deny all taxpayer-funded services and subsidies to illegal aliens. And then highlighted here, I think this means you kind of added it yourself, ban the provision of taxpayer-funded services and subsidies to illegal aliens.
Right. Well, when that happens, Chuck, just go right to my remarks because all I'm doing is I'm wordsmithing for the committee there.
Okay.
Okay. So you're just being redundant, and I'm not criticizing. Don't get me
Okay,
wrong,
yeah,
but
no,
just
yeah.
to make sure we want our audience to understand what we're doing, and we want to make it as simple as possible for them
Okay.
to understand what we're talking about. So yeah, I mean, that gets a lot of work done. If you subsidize illegal aliens living in the state of Florida, then illegal aliens will want to live in the state of Florida because they get benefits from the state of Florida. When you cut that off, it motivates them to go live somewhere else, and that'd be great for us, in my opinion. So that's a big deal. And of course, under public safety, right? I mean, protecting your money, that's a big deal, right? When people break into your house, what do they want? They want your jewelry and they want your money. So yeah, that is a public safety issue. We don't want illegal aliens stealing our money through appropriations legally made through our legislature, Chuck.
There you go. And then the final thing under public safety is to mandate E-Verify for all private and public sector employment. Now,
Yeah, that's a big deal, Chuck,
Yeah.
because so many businesses in Florida rely on illegal labor, right? Agriculture and construction would be the two that jump out at me, but I would also suggest that a lot of the hotels, restaurants, tourism-related businesses in Florida, they employ a lot of illegals too. So that's a big deal here in Florida, and I understand that some of the businesses are going to have heartburn when they try to replace these employees because they can't E-Verify them. But that's just a part of growing up, Chuck. We teach our children, as I just said before, we have to embrace being the dissenting opinion because in the long run, that's really what's going to be in the best interest of the state of Florida, Chuck.
There we go. Well, the next thing on the list is Florida education. And as you're wordsmithing, you want to say to innovate Florida education.
Not defend, right? So the committee says that we should defend Florida education. I say, no, we shouldn't defend it. We should innovate it. And I'm saying to you, Chuck, that I really believe, and as I stay plugged into the media all day, every day, there is a lot of buzz around this country about the failure of the public school system. And, people can say whatever they want. This is me embracing my dissenting opinion because personally, kids, I actually have a friend of mine that was a school teacher in Polk County. And on the first day of school, he was giving an orientation to his class. And a couple of the kids in the class said, hey, Mr. Teacher, this is a prison for us. We are going to collect entitlements. We're going to get on subsidized housing, subsidized food, subsidized everything. That's what we're going to do. We don't need an education. This school is a prison for us. And I would suggest that even affluent families who believe in education and encourage their kids to subordinate to authority and those kinds of things can also agree that putting your kids in school for 8 hours a day is not the most productive way to educate them. There are alternatives. So that's my point, is that I believe that we need to create a program that assists families in transitioning their kids from the public school system into self-directed education models, Chuck.
There you go. The highlighted spot here under this is homeschooling support, develop and implement a transition to self-directed education certification program. So that's kind of what you're talking about. Find
Exactly
out where
what I'm
the
talking about.
student wants to go and help them get there.
Exactly. Inside the family, which also gets the parents much more involved in their students' education. And I just want to also tell the audience that there was a young lady here in Lake County who had 3 daughters, and she said that, yes, in the beginning of the education process with her daughter, she had to be pretty involved. But once the kids get to be 10, 12 years old, with the oversight of their parents, the child themselves directs their education. They love their education because they're studying what they want to study and what they know they need to study, and they're not trapped in a classroom with a bunch of kids who may be holding them back or slowing down the teacher's progress in presenting material, etc. So look, this is very, very doable. It's just a matter of changing our culture and our mindset about education of our children, Chuck.
There you go. Now we move down to the next topic, which is ethics in government, and we just about highlighted everything under this topic.
Amazing.
So yeah, ethics in government's a big deal, and obviously your legislative priorities subcommittee thinks so as well. So the first thing you have highlighted here is to pass 12-year term limits for all city and county commissioners in Florida. So term limits.
Everybody's in favor of term limits except the except the elected official, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. And I'm going to tell you, Chuck, that I'm going to amend that line item with the consent of the committee to include constitutional officers, Chuck.
There you go. That would be interesting as well.
And the constitutional officers, everyone fears the constitutional officers, and rightfully so. They have a lot of power because they stay in power for so long, and they become the financial lifeline of their employees who would never rock the boat in their constitutional office. And that's why we have to have term limits for constitutional officers, Chuck.
Okay. The next thing highlighted is to implement nations and actions good governance guarantee. We've talked about that in the past, which composed of NIA policies that implement the audit, affidavits, and transparency program.
I think we've talked about that on previous broadcasts as well.
Yes, we have.
But listen, this is a matter of audits. Every business needs to be audited, okay? Even if you're a private sector business owner, you have to, if you're not going through line by line your bank statements, determining what you're paying for and what you're not. And again, my good friend Stephanie Winheim and I have a little joke because many years ago I presented to the Board of County Commissioners the concept of, it's called keep it or cut it. Let me say it again. A little program called Keep It or Cut It, where you go line by line or vendor by vendor through your general ledger, which of course in the case of county government is a big stack of paperwork. But you just go through and say, is this something that we need in the county? And if we don't need it, we should cut it, because our job as local government is to stay off taxpayers, to be as little impactful on taxpayers as we can. We want to reduce the size of government and reduce the amount of taxes that we require our citizens to pay. So the Keep It or Cut It program is what we're talking about right there, Chuck.
Okay, the next on the highlighted agenda is to require single district voting for school board and county commission representatives versus the at-large seating.
Okay. So basically, again, ladies and gentlemen, in Lake County, Florida, we have 5 county commission districts and 5 school board districts. So let me just ask you a basic, very simple question. Is it more or less expensive to run county-wide than it is in the local districts? Obvious answer is it's much more affordable to run a political campaign in a single district than it is to run county-wide. But the county-wide policy we have here in Lake County is in place for a reason, because this helps the establishment stakeholders who have been running Lake County since its inception. It makes it much more difficult for local people to actually win school board seats and county commission seats. So, of course, that works very well for the stakeholders who have plenty of money and they want to select, and we can talk about that in more detail, which I would love to do because we're in an election cycle right now. But that's the problem. That we don't elect our representatives. We stakeholders select our elected officials.
There you go.
Making it very difficult. And by going to single districts as opposed to at large, it puts the voice of the people in a stronger position, Chuck.
Yes, it does. Moving down the list, because there's still a few more, and our time is continuing to while away. Your wordsmithing, only government-issued flags on government property.
Why in the world would we let a non-government issued flag fly on government property? I cannot think of I've seen a lot of it, and I can't agree with any of it. Even we flew the Ukraine flag at our administration building in Lake County, Florida. We flew the Israeli flag. And you know what? No matter how you feel about what's going on in the world, we never should fly any flag in any government property other than a government issued flag, Chuck, in my opinion.
There we go. Moving right along. Ban taxpayer funded lobbying. And let's throw the other one in there as well that you have highlighted. Require all principals that lobby the legislative and executive branches of Florida's government to publish their legislative priorities.
So let me tell you something, Chuck. When local, if you can accept the concept that government does not always agree with taxpayers, citizens, voters, then you have to also agree that when you empower government to spend taxpayer money on lobbyists, you are actually paying to support policy that you are antithetical to in many cases. So again, this is something we need to oppose. If the county wants to lobby the legislature, they should bring a group of citizens from the county, and we should go up and lobby the legislature as citizens. We should not be hiring paid lobbyists with taxpayer money to go and lobby for public policy positions that the public generally does not agree with, Chuck.
There we go.
What's the flip side of that one? The next one was what? Because that was important too.
Taxpayer funded require principals that lobby the legislative.
Very important, right? Very important. So, we always talk about backroom deals in smoke-filled rooms, right? So what happens in the legislature is the special interests, they have ongoing every single year. They pay organizations to organize them politically. But you know what? We never really know who's lobbying for what. And, you can see when you look at legislation, who is the principal who is lobbying the legislator and who is the lobbying firm that the principal hired to lobby the legislator. I just want to go a step further here and say that every principal who lobbies a legislature, including us, Chuck, should publish our legislative priorities so the public can see which special interests want what. And I just also want to mention that for special interests, don't think that because we want to publish your legislative priorities, we're against you. That's not true. We also want you to know who your opposition is. So, some special interest groups are going to have adversarial positions. And wouldn't it be nice to know who opposes what you want if you're a special interest? Wouldn't it be nice to know who the opposition is to your proposed legislative priorities, Chuck?
There you go. Well, we are, again, running really quickly out of time. Let me just throw this last one out at you. You're talking about growth management matters. Codify a comprehensive set of property owners' responsibilities and their rights. So why don't you finish up with that one tonight?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. As we're going through growth management, which is a huge part of the debate in the state of Florida today, with the overreach of the state into local government, municipalities and counties' authority over land use matters, we need to do this. We need to do this differently. So, for example, I believe that the comprehensive land use map should be updated every 2 years, not every 10 years. And basically, if we did that, that would save developers a lot of money, because developers tell me face to face that they spend about $2 million before it's over trying to get a land use amendment passed through the county commissioner or city council. Well, you know what? If we tell you that we're going to update the comp plan map within 2 years or less, right, then there's no reason for you to do this. What we want you to do is submit your comprehensive land use change amendment application, and we will read it, and we'll see if we can get it plugged into the new map that's going to be codified in just 2 years, and it won't cost you any money. We're upgrading anyway. But the good news is that when we do that, it also gives the municipality and the county an opportunity to blend in the request of people filing for land use amendments into the map, which means we also address the land uses associated with properties that surround the subject property. And that way we get a better plan, and we plan for infrastructure better, Chuck.
So why don't you take us home, Mike? Finish just.
We covered a lot of territory here today, Chuck. And I love doing this, by the way. And if there's anybody out there watching this and either supports or opposes anything that we covered today, we'd love to have you on the broadcast and let you defend your position, because I'm all about hearing dissenting voices. So come on, send us drop a note in the comments, send us an email or a text message, call us on the phone, come on to the program, and let's talk about it. Chuck?
So thank you so very much, Mike Levine, and thank you all so much for tuning into our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook and X at Restore Our Rep 76, or check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic -ROAR. Please like and share the program. And remember, if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump, and God bless America.